Hello, and welcome to Unity of Huntsville from my home. The title of the talk today is Finding Our Joy. But let's begin by affirming together our opening statement. There is only one presence and one power in my life and the universe, God. So I invite you right now, in this moment, to take a deep breath, gently but fully filling your lungs, and then releasing back to the universe, allowing our body to relax, allowing the mind to become a little more quiet. And we invite Spirit, our only teacher, into this conversation this morning. May we each take from this talk just exactly what it is that we need to put to use in our life. And so it is. Amen. And so the title of the talk today is Finding Our Joy. And before I start that, Let's just think a little bit about that word, joy. A lot of times we like to equate joy with happiness. After all, they're the same thing, right? But maybe not. So happiness is contrasted with sadness. Happiness comes when we feel really good for a while, and then something makes us feel sad. And we see these ups and downs of happiness and sadness. Whereas joy is a little different because it doesn't bring those tremendous peaks that end up with a valley of sadness. Joy is a lot more steady state. We can find joy even in the midst of something that is seemingly terrible on the outside. And that's what I would like to talk about as we talk today about bringing our joy or finding our joy. If you didn't see the talk from last week, I invite you to go back and listen to that, because at the very beginning of it, I tell a story about going into a cave, spelunking, exploring this cave, and going up through a hole from the first floor and climbing into the second level, and then exploring the cave and passing the hole several times on the upper level to the point where we're thoroughly lost because we can't find that hole that leads back down to the first floor, the deep, dark hole. And then eventually going down the deep, dark hole, finding our way out and getting stuck in the mud. Now I'd like to explore that idea a little bit deeper. This story is like a modern day parable. You see, any conflict that we're experiencing in the outer world can be correlated to this parable. As we're exploring through the cave and we're in this lost position where we keep going back and forth and missing the deep dark hole, not even seeing it, but just continually going back and forth, passing it by without finding it. This is the state of mind that we call resistance. You see, as long as we're in resistance to the conflict or the situation or the person that's involved in the conflict, we continually pass by the deep dark hole. We continually re-experience the deep dark hole, whatever the deep dark hole is. The deep dark hole isn't the conflict that we see in the outer. The deep dark hole is our true adversary. And the adversary is never the person or situation that is the conflict in the outer. The adversary is that what's inside of us, which we need to encounter This is the deep, dark hole. It is this thing that we've experienced, usually a long time ago in our past, that keeps bringing up these same feelings. And the feelings are what's really the thing we need to explore. You see, as we keep going by the deep, dark hole, we keep having this same feelings that are brought up inside of us by whatever the conflict may be. And until we can go down in the deep, dark hole, which is non-resistance, going from the state of passing the deep, dark hole by over and over again so that we repeat this experience, we go into a phase of non-resistance where we actually explore. We go into the deep, dark hole and we fully and truly experience the feelings that are surrounding this. And what we find is that those feelings aren't as scary, aren't as bad as what we thought they were when they first came up in our life a long time ago. We're more able to experience those feelings without the fear that we won't survive. Because we know so much more now. Those feelings aren't the same as they were when we were children. So we go into this deep, dark hole of experience with this, whatever it is that we need to experience in order to move past this obstacle that was implanted in us most of the time, long, long ago. But it's ours to experience, or we wouldn't be going back and forth through these same conflicts, triggering these same old feelings. But once we go down into the hole with our non-resistance, we're able to take away the power that this experience from our past has over us now. Will those feelings go away? Not immediately, maybe never. But what will change is our ability to have these feelings without those feelings controlling us, without this experience from the past getting hold of our consciousness and pushing us into a response that is not coming from our true self. And so that is what the non-resistance is about. It is about going back through that deep, dark hole after we have discovered it. It's about inviting Spirit, our teacher within, to help us to make this journey. We don't have to do it alone. In fact, we are never alone. And we'll affirm this in our prayer for protection at the end of this message. Now here is where the joy comes. Because the experience in the outer world may not have changed a whole lot. But the way that experience has affected us in our inner life is altered. By changing our consciousness around this event, we have transformed our lives. The joy, finding our joy, is now possible. Even in the midst of the conflict, there is this calm center where we live from our highest, truest potential self, the Christ within us. And that is where we find our joy. Remember the difference between joy and happiness. Happiness is this up and down, whereas joy is a steady state. No matter what's going on around us, when we're in the place of joy, we can feel the joy. Some of you have been on this spiritual path quite a while. You've begun to encounter these deep, dark holes. And yet, conflict remains at times. We go through this stage where it feels a whole lot like it did before we started. Maybe even it's even more troublesome. Remember back from the cave parable. So we've gone down through the deep, dark hole. We've found the way out of the cave, and we're on our journey. But remember, while I was in the cave, a big rain came. And the puddles that we experienced on the way to the cave are now deeper. And what happens? The truck gets stuck in the mud. This is to show us what Emily Cady called chemicalization. In her book, Lessons in Truth, she described this process of chemicalization. In fact, it's so much of a downer, so much of a perceived negative, that Unity decided for a long time to cut it out of the book. It was just not even in Lessons in Truth for a while. But they brought it back. And you know why they brought it back? Because it happens. When we begin to encounter truth, certain old beliefs that we've carried for a long time are challenged. They're part of our ego, part of our learned personality. These old beliefs. Beliefs about ourselves, beliefs about our world, beliefs about others. But when we begin to have this experience of truth, and not a belief, but a knowing that we are divine, that we are good right here, right now, just as we are, and that we share this with others, seeing the divine in them in spite of what behavior they are demonstrating on the outside, knowing that we are all equally divine and that we are one. Love the Lord your God with all your strength, with all your might, with all your soul, with all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself. This isn't do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This is loving everyone you meet as being a part of yourself, because we are all one in God. I am the vine and you are the branches. We are part of this same living, growing creation. Remember, God is whom we live and move and have our being. And so when we experience this, we see this divine in everyone we meet, it challenges these old beliefs. And that's when the trouble starts. And we can easily become stuck in the mud. These old feelings come back, and man, they are really strong this time. But what do? Think about the cave. We go down into the deep, dark hole. And we truly feel these feelings. And we know that they're not going to hurt us. That we're not going to die because of it. We are still okay. Everything is still good. All is in divine order. This is how we get through this experience of chemicalization. And we write about it. Emily Cady wrote about it, and Unity put it back in Lessons in Truth because it does happen. And because we know about it, we can be prepared. And we can say, oh, that's what I'm going through right now. And by just having this understanding that this does happen, begins to take away some of this power that chemicalization can have over our consciousness. So I'd like to invite you, as you go through your life after watching this talk, after listening to this video, to be aware of what's going on in your consciousness as you move through doing your daily business, whatever that is. Just being aware. Am I feeling happy? Am I feeling sad? Regardless of whether I'm feeling happy or sad, how can I find the joy? Is there a deep, dark hole that's involved here in these feelings of sadness, of anger, of fear? Where are these feelings coming from? Can I live with that? Can I sit with these feelings and allow them to be a part of who I am, instead of resisting them, attributing them to something that's happening out there? Because they're not out there. These feelings are right here. The out there is only happening so that we can encounter these feelings, so that we can go through the deep, dark hole. So look for opportunities in any conflict that happens through the week. Ask for easy, gentle, and fun lessons so that the conflict doesn't have to be a world ending, but just an opportunity to look for what is inside of me that is being triggered by this that's going on out here that I need to deal with. And then just sit with those feelings. Feel what they feel like and realize this is really okay. I'm not going to be harmed by this. These feelings of themselves are okay. Right here, right now, as I'm feeling these feelings, I am still good. All is still in divine order. And this knowing, this realization of that, begins to allow us to have the experience of joy in whatever moment it is. And we can take this joy into any experience, into any conflict, because we have now tools available to us. We have grown to the point where we are able to experience those feelings that in our past were so traumatic, so hard to deal with, so surrounded by fear, that we had to shove them away, that we couldn't experience those feelings. But now we have grown, and we can have those feelings, and we can know that they're not going to harm us, that we are okay, and that we always have help. So, bearing this help in mind that we always have, let's affirm together our prayer for protection, because this is something that we can use in the midst of any conflict, in the midst of any of these feelings that make us want to resist the outer. This prayer for protection is a powerful spiritual tool to have it ready in our spiritual toolbox. So let's pray it together and just affirm the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever I am, God is. Thank you.